Hi, my name's Amanda Horwood and I'm an artist. I'm a painter. Originally I was an oil painter, but I had to adapt to a very busy lifestyle, and oil painting was difficult with the amount of investment you have to make in terms of mess and drying times to fit into a very busy lifestyle that I have. I work in mental health during the day. I graduated in the year 2000 at Leeds at Metropolitan University. I was studying fine art with a specialism in painting. My childhood was spent growing up at the end of the Central Line, going towards Essex, so between London and Essex, just as on the border. It's very suburban, but, with strong links to being able to go into town. I also spent a lot of my childhood, during the summers at least, in Sweden, because my mum's Swedish. So I have a real sort of love of being outdoors and nature, but I'm also very into the city. I spent a lot of my childhood drawing. I love cats, and I've always loved cats, and I wanted to be able to draw humans, but I found cats an easier starting point. So when I was really young, I started copying cats from a book of cats, copying their eyes and studying their faces, and eventually these cats turned into humans. And I'm almost, I'm a figurative artist, but I'm almost unable to live without drawing faces. I'm compelled to draw faces. It's almost like an obsession. I've got a cat purring next to me now. Yeah, I wanted a cat so badly when I was a child. I was really obsessed with having a cat. Now I've got 5. I have many influences. One of my first influences was my nan, my Swedish grandmother, who was an icon painter and a maker of different things, really. She used lots of different craft techniques. And then she became quite accomplished as an icon. Well, she was very accomplished as an icon painter. She was a great influence on me because she was so brave. And clever. She was brave, and she went to Russia. She learnt Russian. She spoke 5 languages, but she travelled on her own to Russia and learnt from an icon painter, a teacher there, and then brought it back to Sweden and made hundreds of icons that were shown in churches. And all of our members of our family have a collection of their own icons that she made. And it's a big family. My mum's got lots of brothers and sisters, and they've had lots of children, so there's a massive clan out there. And, influenced by, modern art. I like abstract art as much as I like figurative art, even though I'm a figurative artist. I'd love to be able to make abstract art, but it just didn't work out. I've tried, and I always miss the faces. It's like that's my pull, so to speak. But yeah, during my art education, we studied, post-war art, and I've got a lot of influences from the different movements since 1945. In terms of contemporary artists, people that are working right now, painters that I like, I like lots of them. There's so many, and Instagram has widened my eyes to how many people are out there working that are just incredible. So many. But just to name two of my favourites, they're both female painters. Is Alexis Solgray, who's British. I love her work. She's a figurative artist too, but she also has a huge amount of abstract sort of areas in her work. And Nodeline Pierre, who's a American female painter, and she's figurative too, and I just love her use of colour and and shape. It's got a real sort of otherworldliness quality to it that I am really searching for in my own work. I'm working on a couple of paintings at the moment, which are 2/3 of the way through. They're gouache paintings, and they're on panels, wooden panels. One of them is a painting that started because I wanted to recreate a scene from a Leonard Cohen song, Famous Blue Raincoat. And so there is a character in it that is wearing a blue raincoat and looks suspiciously Leonard Cohen-like. But he's amongst a big crowd of people. I didn't realise that the going to the station bit in that song was a reference to drugs. I just thought he was going to the station to meet every train because he wanted to meet someone that he loved. So for me, this is like classic me, that I've misunderstood something and put my own interpretation onto it. But I like my interpretation better than the idea that he's just taking heroin or whatever the reference means. Anyway, I've used sort of pictures from that I've seen on the internet to sort of create a scene, an imaginary scene that is representative of crowds of people that are coming or going, saying goodbye to loved ones or waiting for loved ones to return. And is that sort of place where a station is, like a Paddington station, where the light's sort of creeping in through different areas, and it's quite dark in areas too, but everyone's there either leaving or coming, arriving or going. And you don't know what each person's story is. For me, the biggest challenge to be an artist is probably self-belief. Like, I've struggled to believe that I am an artist for the whole time since I graduated from my degree. Before that it was, can I get onto a degree course, and just lacking in self-confidence. Not that I can make art, but that I can actually be committed enough and resourceful enough to support myself as an artist. And then there's been the classic free sort of juggling 3 different areas of like having enough space, having enough time, and having enough money. I don't know what I'd tell my younger self. I suppose I'd reassure my younger self that I will do the work. I will get round to doing it. I was always worried that I wasn't doing enough because I was working all the time, day jobs. I think, it's not over till it's over. There are some artists that start really late, and I think I'd just offer some reassurance and say, your time is going to come. In terms of unconventional techniques, do I use any? I suppose just the fact that I use gouache, and I use gouache on relatively large panels of wood is fairly unconventional. I mean, I don't know anyone else that does that. People tend to use oil paint or acrylic mainly. So even though, they look conventional because they're paintings, and they're figurative paintings, actually using gouache is not that common. Not on board, I don't think. I think people use it more like as a watercolour. And maybe on smaller scale pieces. I don't tend to listen to music while I'm painting. I really love music and listen to music a lot. But when I'm painting and drawing, I tend to have the TV on in the background, and it's quite often something like Netflix. And this is just a habit that I've had since I was really young, because I used to sit and draw in front of the TV when I was a kid. And it just feels like maybe it's just quite a sort of working class kind of thing that I have got, that like TV was on non-stop in our house. And like for me it's like a comfort having it on in the background, and I'm barely sort of aware of what's going on the TV, but it's just sort of like a background noise and sort of light flickering in that I just kind of zone out from, and I'm just completely in the work. But it's sort of comforting for it to be on. I mean, every time someone buys a piece of my work, I am over the moon, and that they want to spend their hard-earned money on my artwork feels just incredible. I love it. But the best reaction that I've ever had is that someone had seen my art in a gallery in London where it was showing, and they'd put a deposit down on that piece of work, and it was quite an expensive piece of work, and so they were going to have to pay in instalments. And then they made the journey down to a gallery that I'm running in a window of the office building that I work at, because someone had told them that my work was on show there, and they made the journey all the way down to Leighton to that gallery to look at the work, and see whether there was one that they'd like there. And they contacted the gallery, which was actually me, because I run it, and asked about the work. And I was really touched by that level of interest, that someone would journey down to Leighton, because it's quite off the beaten track. But yeah, I was really delighted by that. What do I hope people would take away from my work? I guess I want people to feel like they're not alone in their sorrow. Or, that this is a commonly felt human emotion. I mean, not all my work's about sadness and grief, but I think all of my work is about some kind of difficulty. There's something about it that is difficult to process. And I hope that people see something that brings them some kind of a feeling of being like in this together, that it's a shared human feeling, and that if they reach out and look into the painting, they can kind of feel, something about sort of the beauty of the struggle, or that it's worth it somehow. This pain of life is still worth it. Because thanks for listening, and finding out more about me. If anyone wants to see my website, it's amandahorwood.com, and my Instagram is ms_givin_art.